They've been warned by their governments to stay home because of the coronavirus risk.
George Floyd! George Floyd!
But tens of thousands from Sydney to London marching on anyway.
I came down here to be a part of the fight.
I'm sick of having to explain to my children that because they're black, they have to act a certain way, they have to behave a certain way, they have to work 10 times harder to get anywhere in life.
The UK's health minister saying the mass protests this weekend violate social gathering rules.
I support very strongly the argument that is being made by those who are protesting, but the virus itself doesn't discriminate.
That, however, is not true. A report from Public Health England this week found Black and Asian people in England have a 50% higher risk of death after being infected. It reinforces previous indications the health crisis has disproportionately affected Black communities and other minorities and highlighted the persistent social and racial inequalities these protesters are fighting against and say is worth the risk.
We have suffered too long in America and we've suffered too long in Britain.
I'm not going to stop, and I'm not the only one, and we've got to make a change.
In Australia, the Prime Minister telling his citizens outright to not go to Black Lives Matter marches due to the threat of spreading COVID-19.
For all of those Australians who couldn't attend the funeral of a family member or couldn't see a loved one in a nursing home, I think all Australians owe all those other Australians a great duty of responsibility, and I say to them, don't go.
Inspired by the death of George Floyd, Australians gathering in solidarity with U.S. protests also called for an end to racism and police brutality in their own country.
First Nations people are being murdered whilst in the custody of law enforcement officers, so, we need to take a stand, we need to get out there on the streets. It does show that Australia is actually outraged.
Elsewhere around the world, people were not deterred by the risk of a second wave of infections, even in countries hardest hit by COVID-19. In Madrid, protesters' chants could be heard loud and clear through their face masks. In Rome, demonstrators taking a knee and raising a fist in honor of George Floyd. The rallies have unfolded for the past week around the world as global coronavirus infections near 7 million and the global death toll surpasses 400,000. Now, while public health experts warn of a likely uptick in COVID-19 cases and they're urging protesters to take all necessary precautions, many of them agree that racism is its own kind of epidemic. For City News, I'm Caryn Ceolin.